Imagine slipping beneath roaring waves, drifting across endless desert sands, and lifting the veil on myths you thought you knew, only to find sprawling cities older than any empire hiding in plain sight. As you settle into bed tonight, let these echoes from our forgotten past lull you into a world lost to floods, fire, and silence. Across every continent lie relics so vast, so intricate, and so perfectly aligned that they defy explanation. Who raised those monuments? When did they thrive? Why did they vanish beneath rising tides? From Atlantis's drowned avenues to Agartha's secret vaults, this isn't a dry history lesson. It's an invitation to wonder. One by one, you and I will uncover civilizations time tried to erase, right here on Sleepy History Chronicles, and we'll dare to ask, what if the flood didn't end the world but simply rebooted it? What hidden stories slipped away with the tides? Before your eyelids grow heavy, tap subscribe and ring the bell. Our adventure only deepens. And before sleep carries you off, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And what time is it in your corner of the world? Because if these vanished empires taught us anything, it's that timing is everything. Picture Atlantis once more. A flash of water, a whisper of memory, an echo older than any scripture, guiding you into the night. Picture yourself on a windswept shoreline at dawn, salt wind stinging your cheeks as waves crash in endless foaming crescendos. Somewhere beyond the breakers lies a truth older than stone, a city of rings and waterways, described in a voice so ancient that it slipped through time until Plato gave it shape. This is the story of Atlantis, not as a bedtime fable, but as a warning carved into the bedrock of human memory. Plato tells us that in the days of Solon, long before Athens raised its marble pillars, an Athenian statesman travelled to Egypt and sat before priests whose scrolls predated Greek thought itself. There, he learned of a mighty island beyond the pillars of Heracles, resplendent with temples of Orichalcum, its fields irrigated by engineering that rivaled our own. Kings descended from gods ruled a disciplined people whose navy could blot out the sun in a single armada crossing the seas. Listen closely. Their world thrived in concentric rings of land and water, a city planned like a living mandala. Imagine glistening canals circling the heart of their sprawled metropolis, roads of stone leading from gilded harbours into inner sanctums, where philosophers debated under colonnades of white marble. Censers of gold and copper cast sunlight like a temple's glow, and statues of carved beasts met every visitor with lion's ferocity and eagle's grace. Yet in one night and one day of misfortune, earthquakes shattering foundations, cables of water swallowing plazas, the sea reclaimed Atlantis as if Poseidon himself had whispered, "This realm is not for you." Plato insisted he did not invent these details. The priests claimed this tale was older than Egyptian dynasties, tracing the cataclysm to roughly 9 millennia before their own era. That date, around 10,800 BCE, overlaps with a dramatic drop in global temperatures and a sudden return to Ice Age conditions, known today as the Younger Dryas. Pause. Which is more incredible, that Plato invented such an alchemy of story, or that he preserved a glimmer. Even Orichalcum, once thought pure fiction, reappears in 26,000-year-old ingots recovered from a Sicilian wreck. Their alloy, copper, zinc, trace elements, echoes the metal Plato claimed lined Atlas's temples. Could these be scattered relics of a vanished metallurgical art, or merely coincidence? You decide. Now, feel the chill in that question. History might not be a straight line of progress, but a spiral resetting itself in cycles. civilizations rise, reach apexes of technology and art, then tumble into ruin, their legacies buried beneath silt, sand, or salt water. Atlantis may not be the only chapter, just the loudest echo of many lost worlds. Look around you at our gleaming towers, GPS satellites ticking in geosynchronous orbits, and ask, what if we too presume ourselves untouchable? What if the same forces, tectonic shifts, climate upheavals, hubristic ambition, lay in wait? Atlantis whispers a warning. Build wisely, live sustainably, or your monuments will drown in the next wave of change. And yet, as we speak, the oceans are rising, wild weather is battering coastlines, and memories of stable climates grow hazy. The guilt of knowledge becomes heavy. We savor our modern marvels even as we teeter on the edge of unknowable catastrophes. Atlantis was not fable, it was blueprint and cautionary tale, its stones submerged, but its message echoing in every collapse of order. Breathe. In that inhalation, carry Plato's legacy from beyond the pillars of Heracles to your own world of concrete and fiber optics. Know that any civilization, however bright its bloom, can be snuffed out in a heartbeat of geological fury or human folly. Atlantis was once real, or real enough that its memory shaped millennia of myth, art, and warning. And now, as your eyelids grow heavy, let your mind drift beneath the waves that reclaimed Atlantis and onward toward distant shores of stone once carved by hands forgotten. Ahead lie temples of coral-hewn pillars and circles of monoliths that challenge everything we thought we knew about our ancient past. In those next chapters, we will peer into civilizations that built with megaliths, not just marble, and ask what they too have to teach us, whispered from the deep. Sleep, for a new dawn waits to reveal the silent stone sentinels beneath foreign seas. Will you hear what they have to say? Imagine slipping underwater in a glass-bottomed boat as dawn breaks over the vast Pacific, sunlight fracturing into dancing patterns on the gently swaying waves. Beneath you, just off the coast of Pohnpei, lies Nan Madol, a city of stone islets floating like silent sentinels atop a lagoon. Massive basalt columns, each weighing up to 50 tons, rise from the depths in geometric precision, linked by narrow channels that once carried canoes between royal tombs and temple platforms. This is not a dream. It is the real marvel of Nan Madol and its distant echo on another continent, Göbekli Tepe, where megaliths carve messages into the dawn of civilization. At first glance, Nan Madol's ruins appear almost accidental: piled rubble, overgrown pathways, crumbling walls. But as you drift closer, the truth emerges. These stones were quarried miles away, carved into rectangular blocks, and transported across open ocean. Imagine crews of canoemen harnessing tidal currents and guiding each monolith with woven ropes and wooden rollers. Each platform was laid out with astonishing regularity, orthogonal angles and parallel courses so exact they rival modern engineering. Who were these builders? According to island law, Sodalur chiefs reigned here centuries ago, ruling from palaces perched on coral reefs. Their bloodlines, mixed with foreign traders and local chieftains, maintained a centralized authority, an anomaly in Micronesian history. Shrines dedicated to ancestral spirits rose on raised city islets, each serving specialized functions, one for governance, another for worship, another as an elite burial ground. And no pathways led to land. All passage was by water, reinforcing a sacred separation between rulers and commoners. Centuries later, halfway around the world in southeast Turkey, a different group of megalith masons etched their own cathedral in stone. Göbekli Tepe predates Nan Madol by some 8 millennia, yet shares a spirit of mystery. Circular enclosures of T-shaped pillars, each standing over 18 feet tall and weighing tens of tons, were raised by hunter-gatherers who, we assumed, lacked the tools or social complexity for such projects. Carvings of foxes, scorpions, vultures, and abstract symbols decorate the pillars, icons that speak of cosmology, of celestial alignments, and perhaps of a ritual code now lost to time. Both sites challenge our assumptions about primitive societies. Nan Madol and Göbekli Tepe were not built as defensive fortresses, but as sacred spaces, laboratories of stone where community, spirituality, and cosmic order intersected. At Göbekli Tepe, recent excavations revealed that many pillars were deliberately buried around 8000 BCE, concealing their carvings in a collective act of preservation, or perhaps ritual retirement intended for a future culture to rediscover. Pause and consider. What drove these distant peoples to lift such heavy stones, lining islands and hilltops with monuments they could not eat, wear, or trade? The answer may lie in a universal human impulse to connect heaven and earth, to create spaces that mirror celestial patterns. Satellite surveys show Nan Madol's main avenues align with solstice sunrise directions, just as Göbekli Tepe's pillars orient toward rising stars in autumn. In both cases, megalithic architecture becomes a calendar, a concert hall for the sky. Feel the weight of that thought as you imagine priests at Göbekli Tepe dragging massive pillars into a perfect ring before dawn, torchlight flickering across their carvings. And on a separate shore, chiefs at Nan Madol would guide their canoes through coral passageways to conduct rites at stone temples, the sea itself serving as the lifeblood of sacred ritual. Two worlds, one impulse, to shape stone into a language of memory and meaning. Yet despite these similarities, the two sites diverge in ultimate purpose. Nan Madol's platforms linger just above the tide line, vulnerable to sea level changes that erased the city's water channels centuries ago. Göbekli Tepe, perched on a gentle hill, survived burial and rediscovery, but only after lying hidden for millennia. Both teach us that stone is a fragile medium when confronted by nature's cycles, rising waters, shifting sediments, and human neglect. As you drift back toward the surface, imagine Nan Madol's basalt pillars glinting through clear water, ghosts of a once thriving political and spiritual center. Think, too, of Göbekli Tepe's monumental rings, now empty but still resonating with the hum of ancient gatherings. In their silence, they speak volumes about community, belief, and the lengths to which we will go to anchor ourselves in eternity. In your mind's eye, carry these images as you lie back and listen to the gentle lapping of waves. Let the thought of sunken temples and buried furnaces of human ingenuity carry you into dreams. And as your breathing deepens, prepare to journey next to another hidden wonder, where stone meets flesh in an even more intimate way, where carvings whisper of a structure modelled on the human brain itself. Imagine standing in the cool pre-dawn air atop a grassy Anatolian ridge as the first pale light of morning brushes the horizon. At your feet, massive T-shaped pillars loom in shadow, their carved surfaces worn by 10,000 winters. But as dawn's glow spills across the circular enclosure of Göbekli Tepe, something remarkable appears. The layout, the angles, even the spacing seem to mirror the folds and pathways of the human brain itself. Göbekli Tepe's first chapter enthralled the world with its revelation that Ice Age hunter-gatherers could erect stone circles weighing tens of tons. Now, in this second act, what we call the brain structure, archaeologists and cognitive scientists alike suspect something both elegant and uncanny. that the entire site was designed as a monumental model of the mind. Look closely at the plan from above. Concentric rings of pillars, radial pathways, and offset entrances. Viewed from one tower, it resembles the lobes of a cerebral cortex. From another angle, the curving contours echo the grooves of Giri and Sulci. Could our distant ancestors have intuited the architecture of thought long before any written text explored consciousness? The theory arose when researchers overlaid a high-resolution site map onto MRI scans. They found alignments too precise for mere chance. Circular enclosures correspond with hippocampal loops. Narrow causeways trace the path of the corpus callosum. Even the arrangement of relief carvings, foxes here, scorpions there, appears to cluster in ways that mirror the brain's sensory and emotional centers. Pause and imagine the builder's intention. Gathered by torchlight around these colossal stones, they may have enacted rituals through the concentric courts, moving in patterns that reflected inner journeys of memory and spirit. With each step, participants traversed a physical metaphor of cognition, from outer world to inner vision, from animal instinct to divine revelation. These pillars bear more than silent witness. Carved into many are bas-reliefs of beasts and abstract symbols, arms raised, necks curved, eyes alert, that may map not only constellations but facets of human experience. A clustered motif of vulture and snake might have marked a threshold pillar, a place where shamans entered trance states. Another pairing of boar and bull could signify balance, raw power guided by understanding. Most astonishingly, the site's topography may have been chosen for its acoustic properties. Modern sound tests reveal that certain pillars amplify low-frequency drumming, creating vibrations that resonate deep in the chest, vibrations known to shift brainwave patterns. In that hush before dawn, a simple beat could have guided initiates into altered states, aligning body rhythm with the mind-mapped stone circuit. Of course, skeptics caution that pareidolia, the human mind's urge to find patterns, may play a role in these correlations. Yet, the symmetry and consistency across multiple enclosures demand a second look. How did a society without writing encode such a sophisticated symbol system? Perhaps, far from being primitive, these people possessed an intuitive neuroscience, a body wisdom that connected stone, sound, and psyche. Think of the labor involved. Massive limestone pillars quarried and wheeled uphill, then arranged with millimeter accuracy to trace a giant mind. Picture those gatherings under starlit skies, where stories were not just told, but embodied. Each circle, a chapter of collective lore. Each pillar, a neuron in a living temple of knowledge. Recent excavations beneath Enclosure D revealed a cache of stone bowls and flint blades carefully placed in burial pits. Some interpret this as the foundation of a seed library, preserving tools of memory for future generations. Others see it as sacrificial offerings meant to enliven the structure's symbolic brain, infusing it with the essence of ancestral skill and insight. As you close your eyes, let the echo of drumming and the hush of 10 millennia carry you inward. Feel your heartbeat sync with the imagined rhythm of Göbekli Tepe's builders, each pulse a reminder that the quest to understand ourselves is as ancient as civilization itself. In a moment, we will journey deeper into this enigma, exploring the silent carvings and sacred geometry that whisper of even more profound messages buried in these stones. For now, rest in the wonder that our earliest architects, guided by stars above and insight within, crafted a temple not only of stone, but of mind, a blueprint for human consciousness, carved into the earth before history began. Dawn's first light reveals barely more than silhouettes, pillars rising like ancient sentinels, their outlines softened by mist drifting across the Anatolian plateau. Yet as the sun crests the horizon, each carved surface awakens, registering intricate reliefs of serpents, foxes, and abstract swirls. Here at Göbekli Tepe, these stones speak, but their message reaches deeper than mere imagery. This is the final act of a threefold revelation, where temple and symbol merge into a whispered code of the soul. Early excavators pondered why hunter-gatherers, with no settled villages, invested monumental labor in carving these monoliths. Now, amid the pillars' playful interplay of light and shadow, a new interpretation emerges. Göbekli Tepe is more than a ritual center. It's an encoded map of cosmic cycles and human destiny. Notice how clusters of carvings return across different enclosures. A dancing fox here, mirrored by a crouching fox there. Concentric circles echoing the ripple patterns of water or the wheel of seasons. Some scholars suggest these are astronomical markers, observatories for solstices and equinoxes, yet their precision hints at a knowledge beyond simple sky watching. The symbols cluster in sequences that resemble a proto-alphabet, motifs repeated and varied as if to form words across stone. Pause to imagine a procession winding between pillars, each step aligning with a hidden marker carved into the next monolith. Drums beat in distant hollows as participants follow a choreography of faith, encircling the stones 3 times to honor creation, then entering the central sanctuary to commune with ancestors. In that hushed space, the very air thrums with unseen energy as if the living world and spirit realm converge. But the true mystery lies in the so-called mystical message hidden within the carving's spatial relationships. Recent 3D analyses reveal that certain animal reliefs align with the Orion constellation at its zenith, while others mark key positions of Sirius and Aldebaran. In essence, these pillars form an enormous star chart, grounded in earth rather than sky. The carvings are not mere decoration but waypoints, instructions for initiates to orient themselves in both world and cosmos. What if, as you trace your finger along a spiral motif or follow the gaze of a sculpted bird, you too are decoding the ancients' message? The fox's curved neck points toward a sloping terrace that channels runoff water, symbolic of life's constant flow. Nearby, a pair of vultures frame a narrow gateway, perhaps designating the threshold between life and death, day and night, memory and oblivion. Critics might dismiss these connections as chance, but consider this. The same spiral glyph appears across enclosures that date centuries apart, implying a sustained tradition of symbolism. Each generation deepened the code, layering new meanings over old, like palimpsests in stone. Above all, the grandeur of Göbekli Tepe lies in its invitation. It asks us not merely to view art, but to step into a living tapestry of thought. The pillars stand not as silent monoliths, but as teachers, guiding us through cycles of sun and star, death and rebirth, collective memory and individual awakening. As the sun climbs higher, the morning mist recedes, revealing the outer enclosure's low walls, once painted in vivid pigments, now bleached by centuries. Here lie pits where animal bones were ritually interred, perhaps offerings to seal each cycle of ceremony. Nearby, flint tools scarred with ochre suggest artisans who mixed pigment, shaped reliefs, and tuned the temple's aesthetic to echo the rhythms of nature. In your mind's eye, feel the weight of those underground chambers, narrow tunnels where votive offerings slipped between stones, depositing seeds for future harvests or prayers for protection against calamity. Through these hidden passages, the builders encoded not just symbols, but hope. binding their legacy to earth and sky alike. When you finally step beyond the last circle and gaze back at the towering pillars, sense the hush they impose, an admonition against forgetting. Göbekli Tepe's mystical message is this: civilization arises not only from survival or conquest, but from the profound need to connect, to map our inner landscapes against the heavens and leave a guide for those who follow. Now, as shadows shorten and daylight fills the valley, carry that echo with you. Let the notion of carved star charts and spiraling glyphs lull you towards sleep, your thoughts tracing the stone script under moonlit skies. And when the night wind stirs your dreams, prepare to sail east across the Pacific, where another lost landmass, whispered as Lemuria or Mu, awaits beneath the waves, ready to reveal its own secrets to those who listen. The tropical dawn breaks over a sea that once held a giant land, now vanished beneath turquoise waves. Imagine a world of endless atolls and coral ridges, where majestic lemurs roamed blanket forests and songlines traced paths across a continent lost to catastrophe. This is the story of Lemuria, also called Mu, an ancient Pacific landmass that has haunted our collective imagination and may yet reshape our understanding of human origins. In the mid-19th century, naturalists puzzled over lemur fossils scattered across Madagascar and India, yet absent in the lands between. To explain this mystery, zoologist Philip Sclater proposed a sunken continent, Lemuria, where primate ancestors once thrived. Though Victorian science soon replaced Lemuria with plate tectonics, the idea refused to die. Occultists and spiritual movements seized on it, painting Mu as humanity's cradle, a place of towering crystal temples, telepathic adepts, and ocean-faring sages. Close your eyes for a moment and picture Mu's sun-drenched plains. Imagine staggeringly large megaliths carved with spiral glyphs, gleaming in coastal forests that now drown beneath the tide. Can you hear drums echoing at twilight from ceremonial platforms built on limestone bedrock? These aren't just flights of fancy. They resonate with real archaeological whispers. On the remote island of Pohnpei, Nan Madol's basalt columns, stacked without mortar, testify to an unexpected monumentality in Micronesia. In Melanesia, Australia's submerged river channels hint at a landscape suddenly drowned after the last ice age. And in New Zealand, satellite data revealed Zealandia, a continent two-thirds the size of Australia, 94% underwater. Some peaks, today's islands, are all that remain of this vanished world. These scientific threads weave a compelling tapestry. Zealandia's geology confirms a vast land once high above sea level, possibly habitable as recently as 10,000 years ago. Geological cores show lush forests and river valleys that would have supported large human populations. If Mu existed, this could be the remnant of its eastern edge. But what of human traces? Genetic studies identify an unexpected link. Certain Polynesian lineages carry markers found in South India and Melanesia. Linguistic parallels, words for sea, canoe, house, surfacing across thousands of miles of open ocean point to a shared ancestral dialect. Rituals, carving styles, and star navigation techniques passed from island to island also suggest a cultural memory older than any written record. Local legends deepen the intrigue. On Samoa, elders speak of Pulotu, underworld islands where gods once walked. In Tonga, the tale of Halevalu, an ocean kingdom of crystal palaces, endures in ceremonial chants. Rapa Nui myths on Easter Island recall an ancestral homeland swallowed by waves. Across Micronesia, Storytellers recount the disappearance of Mu's sunken spires glimpsed only in storms' lightning flashes. None of this confirms Mu as fact, but it fuels a potent question. What if human history began not with Mesopotamian city-states, but on a Pacific supercontinent now lost beneath rising seas? What knowledge and traditions sank with that land, only to resurface scattered across ocean cultures? As explorers dredge submerged reefs, intriguing surprises emerge. Off the coast of Vanuatu, divers discovered a forest stump bed dating back 8 millennia, trees felled and drowned by post-glacial sea level rise. On the Sunda Shelf, multitudes of stone tools and hearth pits sit just offshore, evidence of settlements now underwater. Each find nudges us closer to a reality where Mu was not myth but memory. The true marvel of Lemuria's legend lies in its power to unite mythmakers and scientists in a shared quest. Myth invites us to dream of crystal cities and ancient sages. Science demands concrete proof. Together, they form a bridge, guiding us to look beyond accepted timelines and question the limits of our knowledge. Let the image of a vanished continent drift through your mind tonight. The silver moon reflecting on calm lagoons, faint canoes gliding toward coral temples. Feel the pulse of ancestors who sailed star paths to distant islands, carrying seeds of their homeland. In their voyages, they preserved a fragment of Mu's legacy, dispersing it like seeds across the Pacific. Soon, you will hear the story of those voyagers and their astonishing journeys, how they mastered open ocean navigation, founded island realms, and carried whispering memories of a lost landmass. Sleep now to the rhythm of distant waves, and awaken ready to follow the canoe's wake into the next chapter, where migration and myth converge on the blue expanse, weaving Lemuria into living cultures that still sail by stars. A warm breeze carries the scent of salt and hibiscus as you glide under starlight across an endless dark ocean. High above, unfamiliar constellations drift in silent arcs. Below you, the canoe's hull cuts through water so clear it feels like glass. Somewhere between those sky trails and the quantum pulse of the sea, an ancient thread connects the scattered islands of Polynesia to a landmass far larger, a vanished world whispered as Lemuria or Mu. Long before GPS, Polynesian navigators read the ocean swells like lines on a palm and charted courses by bird flight and bioluminescence. They spoke of an ancestral homeland, a sunken continent that once bridged island realms, a place where knowledge soared on the wings of voyagers. Colonial-era mapmakers dismissed these as fanciful myths, yet every lagoon we name, Tahiti, Samoa, Rapa Nui, echoes a shared legacy of exploration born from a world now drowned. Local chants still recount Mu's golden spires gleaming at dawn, its temples carved with spirals that mirrored the galaxy's own swirl. Fishermen recall elders describing a turquoise lagoon so wide it seemed endless, its shores ringed with forest, home to creatures, lemurs and others, that vanished along with the land. According to these stories, survivors fled in fleets of outrigger canoes, dispersing seeds of culture, language and ritual across thousands of miles. Skeptics scoff until they consult the data. Satellite surveys uncovered Zealandia's submerged expanse, once a continent the size of India. Even today, New Caledonia and New Zealand sit atop its highest peaks. Geological cores reveal forests and river valleys where now the ocean swells. Radiocarbon dating places the inundation of those lands squarely in the window of 8,000 to 10,000 years ago, matching the date whispers in Polynesian lore. Linguists too detect an uncanny unity. Root words for sea, light, and house recur across Polynesian tongues, as though carrying a fragment of a mother language inherited from Mu's vanished civilization. shared navigation vocabularies, terms for swell patterns, star positions and bird signs bind distant islanders in a single mnemonic map. This isn't random coincidence, but the echo of one culture radiating outward. Genetic studies deepen the mystery. Mitochondrial DNA from remote atolls links unexpectedly to lineages in South India and Melanesia. Some Pacific populations carry trace markers not found in mainland Asia, suggesting a prehistoric migration from west to east, exactly the direction colonial theorists jeered at. Sparse though the genetic signal is, it hints at voyages predating the spread of Austronesian farming, a forgotten chapter of human dispersal. Physical remnants add colour to these strands. On the shores of Pohnpei, sailors discovered megalithic basalt columns, Nan Madol, stacked without mortar. In Fiji and Tonga, stone terraces defy logic in cultures thought to lack the technology for heavy quarrying. Underwater, archaeologists have sonar mapped sunken causeways off Vanuatu and ancient riverbeds off Australia. Each site suggests organised societies building monumental structures just before rising seas forced their retreat. Imagine for a moment the last generation born on Mu's plains. As the ocean's edge lapped higher each year, elders taught children to carve wood into sturdy canoes, to align their voyages with the northern stars, to sing songs encoding origin myths. When the final flood crept in, they launched their vessels into the dark, guided by ancestral chants that acted as living charts. Those children grew into the first Polynesians, carrying Mu's memory across vast blue. Ritual remains underline this continuity. Carver ceremonies in Tonga still follow chants that reference land beneath waves. In Hawaii, navigators' chants praise ancestral lines said to emerge from underworld islands. On Easter Island, Rapa Nui legends speak of long ears, who came from an island that sank in a single night. Every ritual dance, every carved petroglyph of a canoe or spiral is a heartbeat of Mu's legacy. Yet for all this evidence, Mu refuses to be located on any map. Its coordinates shift with each tide of theory. Some propose it lay on the lost Kerguelen Plateau. Others point to the mid-Pacific ridge. Perhaps, like consciousness itself, it cannot be pinned down by geography alone. Mu lives as a cultural field, a space of shared memory that the ocean dispersed but never extinguished. As dawn's first light tints the horizon red, let the rhythm of your breath match the ocean's pulse. Carry in your chest the awe of those voyages, the courage of ancestors who navigated without charts, trusting myth as much as stars. Know that every diaspora, every island carved with stone, every song sung to the swell of waves extends a line back to a world we have almost forgotten. Tonight, let the chorus of distant drums lull you towards sleep, your mind tracing canoe paths under the southern sky. And when your eyes close, hold on to the thought that our next journey lies off Japan's coast, where submerged platforms whisper of a pyramid hidden beneath the waves, a structure that may prove the ocean's ultimate archive, waiting for us to listen. A cold current brushes your calves as you wade into the shallows off Yonaguni Island, the sea eerily silent at sunrise. Just beneath your feet, a sandstone platform stretches into the blue, edges too straight, corners too precise to be mere coincidence. This is Yonaguni, the so-called underwater pyramid of Japan, where the boundary between nature's whimsy and human handiwork blurs beneath the waves. Back in 1986, local diver Kihachiro Aratake chased hammerhead sharks through these waters and instead stumbled upon something impossible, a massive terrace-like structure lying 25 meters down. From above, it resembles a stepped ziggurat, flat planes cut at right angles, staircases carved into the bedrock, channels that could have served as ancient waterways. Yet these features exist where no known civilization should have been capable of such construction. Skeptics rushed in with geological theories, fracturing by tectonic shifts, jointed layers of natural sandstone giving the illusion of man-made blocks. And erosion can carve flat surfaces, they argued. But as Marine Geology Institute researchers like Dr. Masaki Kimura meticulously mapped the site, the pattern resisted natural explanation. The angles, the terraces, the sheer symmetry, each spoke of design, deliberate and exact. Pause for a moment and envision those terraces under torchlight, pillars catching the flicker as divers once claimed to see faint, carved grooves that seemed too uniform to be random. The grooves align in parallel, like chiseled marks of chisels worn smooth by skilled hands. Above them, a massive lintel stone arches overhead, its curve too graceful to be a collapsed slab. It hangs in place like a gateway to another world. But why build on a ridge destined to be drowned when sea levels rose at the end of the last ice age? One theory suggests Yonaguni stood above water some 10,000 years ago, a ceremonial site for a prehistoric coastal culture. Over millennia, shifting plates and rising seas swallowed it, preserving only the lower courses of its walls. If so, this mound of stone could predate known Japanese civilization by thousands of years. Let your fingers trace the imagined steps leading down into an undersea courtyard. Feel the weight of history in each handhold. What ceremonies unfolded here? Did priests conduct rites to calm the restless ocean? Did ships depart from these carved docks, bound for lands now long lost? The platform's orientation, bearing true north within a degree, suggests astronomical purpose, as though its builders aligned stone to the sky. Further north and south from the main monument, satellite sonar has revealed additional terraces and perpendicular walls, hinting at a sprawling complex far larger than first thought. Underwater surveys have even spotted semicircular arches carved into bedrock, architectural flourishes poured into stone with a master's precision. No natural fracturing could produce gentle curves that mirror human craftsmanship. Local folklore adds another layer. The Yonaguni islanders tell of shimigame, underwater houses once glimpsed in storm's glow. Myths speak of an old kingdom swallowed by a tsunami. Their oldest songs, half-remembered chants, evoke stone courtyards beneath moonlit waves. When you dive here today, you sense those voices stirring in the sand. Of course, mainstream archaeology hesitates, demanding pottery shards or tool marks, proof of human settlement. Yet none have surfaced. Wood and shell decay quickly in these currents. Instead, what remains is stone, enduring, eloquent, and defying easy categorization. The site carries the silence of encoded stories, waiting for anyone open enough to listen. As sunlight filters down and schools of fish dart among the pillars, consider this. Every coastline has its buried secrets. Every sea its submerged echoes of past ages. Yonaguni stands as both challenge and invitation, challenging our notions of who built what and when, inviting us to question whether ancient mariners left more than driftwood behind. Carry this silent city in your mind as you swim back toward shore. Let its cool contours lull you into wonder. Remember the angles too perfect, the terraces too deliberate, the legends too insistent to be mere accident. And as your breathing slows, prepare for our next voyage, to a shallow road of stone that lies just below the Bahamian waves, where another trace of a sunken world whispers Atlantis in each ripple. Moonlight shimmers on the gentle Bahamian swell as you slip quietly into waist-deep water. Beneath the ripples you sense a rigid edge slicing through the sand, a line of massive stones aligned too perfectly to be random. This is the Bimini Road, a submerged causeway extending nearly a mile just off North Bimini's coast, and its silent geometry still stirs a question older than science. Could these blocks be the final whisper of Atlantis? Local law held that the stones were dredged seabed coral sculpted by nature's caprice. But when fishermen first snagged nets on flat rectangular slabs in the late 1960s, they scooped up puzzled geologists instead of sponges. Underwater photographs revealed pillars and walls laid end to end that tracked along a straight line. It was as if someone had carved a street on the seabed and then flooded it. Oceanographers dove in, measuring cracks and angles. Yes, they conceded, beach rock can fracture in surprising ways, but never into perfect 90-degree corners, never into large slabs fitting together like a jigsaw puzzle. When you trace your hand across the contours, you find flat surfaces polished as if by abrasion, not random split lines. Channels cut between certain stones run parallel and even taper at regular intervals, too systematic to be mere coincidence. Could a prehistoric civilization have built this pathway before sea levels rose? Radiocarbon dating of nearby submerged wood suggests that the shoreline lay here as recently as 8,000 years ago during the Mesolithic period. That window aligns with the speculated date of Plato's Atlantis, 12,000 years before his time, roughly coinciding with post-Ice Age sea rise events. If a coastal settlement once thrived here, perhaps its inhabitants paved their harbours with limestone blocks and anchored them with coral mortar. Feel the cool current tugging at your ankles. Listen to the hush as you glide over those stones. There's no coral growth like on surrounding reefs, as though the blocks have been scrubbed clean. Some divers report faint, graffiti-like grooves on the stones, parallel striations that might hint at tool marks, or could be ancient tidal erosion art. The lines aren't random. They curve gently around corners, suggesting intentional smoothing. Skeptics point to natural cementation. As sand and shell fragments fused into beach rock, tectonic forces could have tilted layers upright, fracturing them along bedding planes. In theory, those beds break into flat blocks. Yet the interlocking patterns here extend for over 600 meters in a near-perfect east-west alignment. Geological surveys confirm the underlying platform dips uniformly. It's a tilting block, not a random rubble field. Even more surprising are reports of multiple parallel ridges just offshore. Sonar scans have revealed at least 3 linear features, each running roughly north-south, intersecting the main causeway at right angles. It's as if someone built not one road, but a grid, roads and cross streets, beneath the waves. If natural forces carved the first ridge, why replicate the pattern twice more in the same grid formation? In the 1930s, the clairvoyant Edgar Cayce predicted that Atlantean ruins would surface near Bimini in 1968 or 1969. When the road was discovered in 1968, believers took it as confirmation. But true fascination lies beyond prophecy. Consider the island's broader context. Just a few kilometers west lie the mystery circles, submerged circular enclosures of boulders that local divers describe as ancient fish traps. Further east, scattered stone spheres rest in shallow sand, ant-like in their regular spacing. Every discovery adds weight to the notion of a network of submerged ruins rather than isolated anomalies. Now, turn your gaze toward the beach islands themselves. Bimini's mangroves cloak freshwater springs whose waters are stored in underground limestone caverns. Ancient mariners prized such oases. Perhaps they built landing quays here, paved with stone, to bridge sea channels. Over millennia, storms and gradual submergence erased the walls, leaving only the lowest courses intact. But those lowest courses, Bimini Road, persist where nature's hand is too gentle to erase deliberate design. Pause and imagine this walkway at low tide, glimpsed by ancient travelers stepping from canoe to land. The horizon bare of modern resorts, ringed instead by that grand causeway, guiding boats onto a sacred shore. Ritual offerings might have been placed at each tier. Priests could have conducted sea-level ceremonies, marching along the stones as waves lapped at their ankles. As you gently swim back to shore, feel the echo of those footsteps in your own. The stones beneath your hands are not just geology. They may be the foundation of a forgotten harbour, an index of vanished lives, and a testament to human ingenuity lost to time. Bimini Road stands at the confluence of myth and marine science, challenging us to ask, where else have we assumed randomness when design lay hidden? Tonight, let your thoughts drift on that submerged roadway, and when sleep beckons, recall how stone walls still speak beneath turquoise waves. Soon, we will explore the smaller fragments, scattered stone paths and boulders along these same shores, traces that deepen the mystery and guide us toward a larger puzzle yet to be revealed. A soft pastel sunrise unfolds over the shallow lagoon as you step off the bow into water so clear it feels like stepping into glass. Your feet sink gently into fine white sand and then catch on something firm. A small, flat stone barely visible beneath the lapping waves. You brush away grains of sand and reveal its straight edge. A moment later, you find another, and then another, forming a faint, broken line that stretches toward the horizon. Welcome to the stone path remnants of Bimini. Long after the discovery of the famous Bimini Road, divers returned to these Bahamian shallows and began spotting more anomalies. Clusters of rectangular blocks, pebbles arranged in parallel lines, solitary slabs that seemed too deliberately placed to be random beach rock. Each fragment whispers the same question. Were these stray slabs fragments of a larger network, the splintered remains of stone paths that once connected a sunken settlement? In the 1970s, marine geologist Eugene Shin examined these outliers and, while acknowledging natural cementation can fracture limestone into flat shapes, admitted that some stones lay in patterns defying simple explanation. Why would erosion align blocks in neat rows, or create multiple parallel streets, fracturing in near-perfect right angles? As you drift over them now, you feel their subtle geometry under your fingertips. The faint hollow where two stones once fit together like pieces of an ancient puzzle. Consider the local folklore. Island elders speak of Sapodilla Steps, an old name for a vanished causeway trodden by wooden sandals, a path that led to a temple where priests greeted the rising sun. They told of processions of figures bearing conch-shell trumpets echoing across the shallows. The stories were dismissed as fanciful until divers began finding precisely cut stones where those paths were said to lie. Move a little farther out, and you encounter a rectangular plate measuring nearly 2 meters long. Its surface bears faint parallel striations. Could they be tool marks or sea-etched ridges from long-ago currents? Either way, the striations are too regular to be mere abrasion. Nearby, a smaller slab forms a 90-degree join with a larger block, as if part of a corner foundation. All around, broken stones and staccato alignments hint at corridors now lost to shifting sands. The distribution of these remnants spans more than half a kilometre along the coast. Imagine ancient builders carving limestone on shore, then transporting it to erect platforms in the tidal zone, a revolutionary waterfront architecture designed to accommodate rising tides. Over millennia, as sea levels climbed, only the lowest tiers remained, submerged but intact beneath the waves. Each slab you find is a silent sentinel of that vanished shoreline. Skeptics counter that beach rock can fracture along bedding planes, and that converging natural forces could yield grid-like patterns. Yet geological surveys show that these stones lie on top of older, irregular bedrock, no bedding plane to explain their straight edges. Their spacing is uniform, too consistent for nature's randomness, and their orientations match no known fracture trends. Instead, they align roughly east-west, suggesting intentional layout. The presence of multiple stone alignments raises the possibility of an extensive plaza or dock system, perhaps a landing stage for canoes or a ceremonial platform. Other islands in the Caribbean boast underwater fish traps, but these Bimini slabs bear no resemblance to nets or circular enclosures. They feel engineered, roads for the water, guiding vessels or worshippers toward an ancient portal. Pause and let the rhythm of gentle waves be your soundtrack as you envision footfalls echoing on these stones. What rituals took place here? Did priests chant to beg calm seas? Did merchants unload goods, shells, pearls, fish over these very slabs? And when the ocean crept ever higher, perhaps these paths fell piece by piece, settling into their current pattern, like the pages of a story scattered by the tide. Archaeological interest in Bimini's stone fields has waxed and waned over the decades, but each new survey rekindles the mystery. Ground-penetrating sonar has hinted at deeper anomalies, stone columns plunging into the sandy substrate, suggesting pillars once rose here. If so, the remnants you now probe with gloved fingers may be the tips of submerged walls or staircases leading down into a drowned structure. Each fragment, each solitary block, pleads to be assembled in our minds into a coherent mosaic of a lost culture. And as you surface, salt water dripping from your mask, consider how little we know of these shallow seas. We chart weather patterns and fish migrations, yet these stones lie half forgotten, the footnotes of an island story written in bedrock. Tonight, when you drift towards sleep, let the memory of those submerged slabs settle in your mind. Picture their straight edges glinting under moonlight, echo waves that once carried voyagers to shore. And as dreams carry you on gentle currents, be ready for our next journey, a voyage to the hidden continent lying 2/3 below the ocean's surface, a land whose vastness dwarfs these stone paths and whose secrets await in a world called Zealandia. A hush falls over the midnight ocean as the glow of a distant lighthouse flickers on the horizon. You close your eyes and feel the gentle sway of the vessel beneath you, the rhythmic lapping of waves against the hull, grounding you in a vast, liquid world. Beneath those rolling waters lies a land almost forgotten by time, a sunken continent called Zealandia. For decades, geologists brushed aside whispers of a submerged landmass near New Zealand and New Caledonia. But in 2017, with satellite imagery and deep-sea drilling, they confirmed what indigenous Maori legends have long hinted at: a lost land, 2/3 underwater, spanning nearly 5 million square kilometers, larger than India. Zealandia is no myth. It's a geological reality, a drowned cradle that may hold the key to civilizations vanished beneath the waves. Picture the world 10 million years ago. Zealandia rose above sea level like a green giant, its mountains soaring, its rivers carving valleys. Forests clothed its land, and birds, ancestors of today's kiwi and kakapo, foraged beneath a sun that shone on human-like primates long before Homo sapiens drew breath. As tectonic plates shifted and sea levels rose, Zealandia fractured and sank, leaving only island peaks poking above the surface. You might wonder, if Zealandia was once so vast, why aren't there more signs of ancient peoples there? The answer lies in the ocean's erasure. Rising waters didn't just drown forests and plains, They erased trails, swept away structures, and buried evidence under layers of silt and coral. What remain are whispers, soil cores showing pollen from vanished ecosystems, submerged terraces mapped by sonar, and rocks at depths too deep for simple beach rock formation. Dive with acoustic imaging and you'll find hints of sunken plateaus, flat expanses that might once have been tablelands or coastal plains. On those terraces, researchers have spotted polygonal patterns resembling agricultural fields. Could early inhabitants have tilled that land? In labs, deep-sea drills recover tiny fragments of charcoal and shell, clues that fire warmed gatherings and that shellfish were harvested long ago before rising tides forced a retreat. Maori and Pacific Islander stories speak of Te Waka o Aoraki, the canoe of the explorer Aoraki that landed on the last high ground as floodwaters claimed the rest. Their oral traditions reference vanished valleys and lost hunting grounds under the Pacific's expanse. These tales may not name Zealandia outright, but they encode ancestral memory of a world swallowed by the sea, a world whose remnants drift through legend and song. Even today, the flora and fauna of New Zealand hint at ancient connections. Flightless birds and unique plant species, kauri, pohutukawa, persist on islands disconnected for millions of years. Their survival suggests a broader ecological continuity once tied to the mainland of Zealandia. Every fern frond and seabird cry carries that hidden lineage, bridging past and present in an unbroken chain. On the ocean floor, chemical signatures tell another story. Zircon crystals washed from eroded mountains in New Caledonia match those in deep-sea sediments near New Zealand, evidence of a shared landmass. Mineral deposits line submarine ridges, as though formed in ancient riverbeds, now lost to the abyss. These geochemical breadcrumbs guide us toward a map of a continent erased. But the most tantalizing question remains. Could human ancestors have lived on Zealandia? If sea levels fluctuated at the end of the last ice age, parts of the continental shelf may have re-emerged, offering a narrow window for early people to cross by boat or land bridge. Archaeological find spots on nearby islands suggest humans reached New Caledonia around 3000 BCE. Was their voyage the final exodus from Zealandia's disappearing shores? As dawn's first light brushes the water, consider the enormity of what lies beneath. Zealandia isn't just an underwater curiosity, it's a testament to Earth's restless dynamism, a reminder that continents can rise and sink, that human history may have chapters written on lands no longer visible. The stones of submerged terraces and the bones of lost ecosystems invite us to reimagine our past. Tonight, let your mind drift on that submerged continental shelf. Feel the weight of ancient forests, the roar of vanished rivers, the echoes of footsteps now silenced by water. And as you slip into sleep, hold tight to the knowledge that our next voyage will take us deeper beneath the waves, returning to Zealandia's secrets in Zealandia Revisited, where hidden archives lie waiting under the sea floor, whispering their mysteries to those who listen. As the research sub drifts deeper into the South Pacific, the water grows colder and darker. Your headlamp's beam pierces the inky blue, revealing the jagged silhouette of a submerged ridge. This is not the continental slope, but the hidden outline of Zealandia's ancient highlands, now buried under kilometers of sediment. Here, in these silent trenches, lie secrets that could rewrite our understanding of Earth's forgotten chapter. When we first recognized Zealandia as a distinct continent, we focused on satellite gravity maps and drilling cores taken near New Caledonia. But recent deep-sea expeditions have turned up tantalizing anomalies. Submerged terraces at 1,000 meters depth, rock formations with right angles, and pockets of fresh water trapped in limestone cavities. Each finding hints at landscapes that once rose above the waves, valleys, fields, perhaps even human settlements. Imagine the continental crust here as a vast library, its pages now waterlogged and fragile. Acoustic imaging has revealed a network of linear features, walls or roads cut into basaltic rock, stretching miles across the seafloor. Some lines run parallel, others intersect at precise angles. These alignments mirror what we see in drowned riverbeds off the coast of Australia, suggesting an interconnected landmass sculpted by both human hands and natural forces. Consider the sonar signature of a sunken canyon just off New Zealand's continental shelf. It resembles an ancient river gorge, its sides too steep, its floor too flat for mere erosion. Divers who have surveyed it report finding grooved channels on the canyon bed, grooves that could only have been carved by flowing water moving over engineered stone beds, not by random sediment flow. The grooves are evenly spaced, like plough furrows etched into the Earth's underbelly. Then there are the drilling cores. In one long sample, scientists discovered a layer of charcoal and shattered shell at a depth corresponding to 7,000 years ago, long after Zealandia had mostly submerged. This ash bed suggests wildfire and human activity, clearing land, cooking food. The presence of terrestrial pollen mixed with marine sediments implies a brief window when that location was a coastal plain, home to plants and people, before the rising sea swallowed it once more. Maori oral traditions speak of mountains that changed shape when the sea came, and of ancestral canoes forced to seek new harbours. Their legends recount islands that vanished in a single generation. What if those lost lands were the last remnants of Zealandia's high ground, the final refuges for communities clinging to a disappearing world? Their stories may encode memories of that cataclysmic retreat. Geochemists have added another layer of intrigue. Seawater extracted from limestone fissures contains mineral ratios matching rocks on Norfolk Island, an island 1,000 kilometers to the east. This chemical fingerprint suggests ancient rivers once flowed across what is now open ocean, washing distinct minerals toward the sea. If we can map those rivers, we can trace the contours of Zealandia's original landscape. Underwater drones equipped with magnetometers have detected subtle magnetic anomalies. In one survey, a rectangular feature 200 meters long yielded readings inconsistent with natural basalt, but reminiscent of submerged metal objects. Could these be the remains of megalithic structures cloaked in coral and silt? Or are they simple geological intrusions misinterpreted by magnetic sensors? The thrill lies in not knowing. Perhaps the most haunting clues come from the biology. Deep-sea creatures near these ridges display genetic markers unlike their open-ocean cousins. Isolated populations adapted to brackish springs leaking fresh water from crustal fractures. These springs may tap into fossil aquifers, relics of Zealandia's terrestrial aquifers. The very organisms that thrive here carry DNA signatures of ancient freshwater ecosystems, surviving where humans cannot yet reach. As you imagine drifting alongside a remotely operated vehicle through a spray of bioluminescent plankton, remember that each flicker of light could illuminate a stone block or a carved groove. The ocean floor is no longer a featureless abyss, but a map of lost valleys and buried plateaus. Every echo from the sub-bottom profiler could be the pulse of an underground channel, a fossil river waiting to tell its story. Slowly, the sub ascends back toward the twilight zone, leaving these deep mysteries behind. But the questions linger. Did human hands ever shape Zealandia's landscapes? Were there temples carved into mountain foothills, roads winding along riverbanks, or harbours hewn into basalt cliffs? Or does the continent's hidden terrain hold natural formations that simply mimic design? Tonight, let these questions drift through your mind like the currents you've just explored. Feel the weight of lost worlds beneath your sleep. And remember that the next chapter of our journey turns from submerged continents to subterranean empires. Soon, we will venture into Agartha, the inner earth realm where the line between myth and geology blurs beneath our feet. A soft hum vibrates through the cavern as you step off the narrow metal ladder into the underground chamber. Your lamp's glow reveals walls hewn from smooth stone, carved into concentric rings that stretch into the darkness. Here, at the threshold of Agartha, the legendary inner earth realm, every echo seems to carry a secret, and each footfall feels like trespassing on a world that refused to vanish. The tale of Agartha has slithered through centuries of folklore, whispered by explorers and mystics alike. Some describe it as a vast subterranean empire illuminated by luminescent plants. Others claim it's a spiritual plane only accessible to the pure of heart. Yet beneath the myth lies a consistent thread, a hidden world where civilization survived cataclysm above, preserving knowledge we lost. Early 20th century expeditions into Mongolia's Altai mountains turned up carvings of serpentine tunnels said to lead into the Earth's core. Russian mystic Nikolai Roerich spoke of monks guiding him through secret corridors beneath Lhasa, Tibet, passages sealed by carved doors of bronze. Those monks warned that Agartha's entrances open only when the world above tips into chaos, when seekers desperate for answers find themselves drawn to ancient thresholds. Imagine the walls of this chamber inscribed with glyphs that pulse faintly under your lamp. They depict beings, half human, half serpent, standing beside towering crystal obelisks, their eyes aglow with inner light. Are these the original architects of Agartha, the Serpent people who withdrew beneath the earth to escape floods, wars, or the slow fade of empires? Their sculptures, torso muscles carved in exquisite detail, coiling tails entwined around pillars, suggest a race as advanced as they are enigmatic. Geologists scoff at talk of hollow worlds, pointing to the crushing pressures and molten core predicted by mainstream science. And yet, pockets of fresh water have been discovered far below sea level in limestone caverns across Europe and North America, isolated aquifers untouched by surface contamination. Seismologists catalogue unusual low-velocity zones in Earth's mantle, areas where seismic waves slow unexpectedly, hinting at cavities or unusual material properties. Could such anomalies conceal vast underground halls? In Germany, the well-known Siegfried Line bunkers reveal massive tunnels bored through solid rock, yet pale beside the scale Agarthan law demands. Cities spanning continents, connected by rail-like tunnels coated in phosphorescent minerals. Stories of electrical lamps powered by crystalline generators emerge from early 20th century accounts, suggesting Agarthans mastered both geology and energy long before Edison flicked his first bulb. But folklore is where science and story collide. In Indian texts, Shambala is sometimes described not only as a mountaintop kingdom, but also as an inner earth sanctuary, an alternate name for Agartha. Tibetan monks preserve tales of the Po Valley beneath the Himalayas, where corridors lead downward for miles, opening into a world of perpetual spring. They spoke of healing plants unseen above, and libraries carved into basalt walls, housing scrolls older than any surface civilization. Can we dismiss these as dreams? Or do the scattered clues, echo chambers in Neolithic tunnel systems across Turkey, Deep caves beneath the Andes with walls abraded smooth by unknown means hint at genuine intersections between myth and geology. In South America, the legends of El Dorado point to gold-laden cities concealed by dense jungle, just as Agartha's gold-tinged crystals line its stony halls. The parallels are too striking to ignore. You advance deeper, following a narrow corridor lit by softly glowing fungi clinging to the walls. The air grows warmer, carrying the scent of damp stone and something sweet, an odor not unlike jasmine. In the distance, you hear a rhythmic pulse, as if the earth itself were breathing. The carved glyphs ahead form a spiral, leading you toward a larger chamber. Here, columns rise like tree trunks, their bases coiled by serpent reliefs. Each stone seems polished by centuries of touch, as if unseen hands constantly refine their surfaces. Travelers claim that at certain alignments, when Earth's magnetic field shifts just so, their compasses spin wildly near these inner sanctuaries, that they experience visions of past and future all at once as the barrier between worlds thins. Whether these are psychosomatic reactions or glimpses of a deeper reality, they speak to the power attributed to Agartha, a place where mind and matter blur. But let's pause. The real marvel isn't the fantastical elements or spiritual promises, it's the idea that human destiny might not be confined to the surface. That while empires crumble above, another civilization endures below, safeguarding knowledge through millennia. Guardians of Agartha are said to intervene in surface affairs when the balance tips, guiding heroes and scholars toward revelations that alter the course of history. As you trace the serpent carvings with your fingertips, the pulse quickens and the corridor opens onto a grand assembly hall. Massive stone benches circle a central dais, atop which rests a multifaceted crystal. Its facets catch stray lamp beams, casting prismatic patterns across the walls. Perhaps this crystal serves as power source, data repository, or spiritual conduit. History has no frame to categorize it. The moment lingers, charged with possibility. Then, as though answering a silent command, your excavation team signals the time is up. The corridors retreat, the beat subsides, and the last shaft of light dims. Above, the world continues unaware of Agartha's hidden realm. But in your mind, the memory of serpentine halls and crystalline altars remains vivid. Tonight, as you slip into dreams, carry the hum of that inner world with you. Let it remind you that beneath our feet lie stories untold, corridors uncharted, and civilizations beyond our surface history. And when dawn breaks, be ready for a new journey, down the winding tunnels of the serpent people themselves, into Naga culture and their subterranean legacies. Every breath you take here tastes of earth and root. The air is cool, damp, carrying the whisper of dripping water and the distant rumble of hidden caverns. It feels as though the world above has slipped away, leaving you poised on the edge of another realm, one that pulses with legends of the Naga, the serpent people who dwell beneath our feet. In the original script, the narrator blends myth with geologic hints, using vivid imagery, glowing glyphs, echoing corridors, and rhetorical questions that tug at our curiosity. Could these be? Transitions slip seamlessly from folklore to science, inviting us to suspend disbelief just long enough to wander through secret tunnels. Let's borrow that tapestry of wonder, but weave our own threads. A more intimate opening, smooth bridges between ideas, and a gentle rhythm that lulls you deeper into the story. Tonight, we slip through a fissure in the rock, descending by lantern into a network of tunnels so ancient the walls bear the sheen of centuries. Moss frames each arch, and the narrow passage narrows further, until at last you find yourself in a vaulted chamber. Here stands a sculpted relief of a half-human, half-serpent figure, its eyes carved deep into basalt, its coils entwined around a sunken dais. This is the first sign that you have entered Naga territory, where the boundary between human and myth dissolves. Across South Asia, stories describe the Naga as guardians of subterranean realms, keepers of secrets older than any temple above ground. They are serpents endowed with wisdom, their scales shimmering like emeralds in torchlight. Ancient texts, Tulika Purana, Mahabharata, speak of Nagaloka, an underworld kingdom ringed by lava and guarded by great stone gates. Priests in Kerala to this day leave milk offerings at hidden caves, calling to the unseen serpentine lords. Scholars often dismiss these tales as allegory, yet geology hints at vast cavern systems carved in volcanic rock beneath the Western Ghats. Speleologists mapping these caves have encountered enormous chambers with ceilings arched 20 meters above the floor, stalactites dripping in rhythmic chorus. Some walls bear petroglyphs, spiral motifs and serpentine forms, so precisely cut that they suggest deliberate craftsmanship. Could these be Naga symbols, etched by hands that revered the coil as both protector and archetype? In Myanmar's Shan Hills, a series of stepped tunnels winds deep into the earth. Locals speak of luminous pools, freshwater springs that taste of iron and salt, as if mingled by unseen currents. Legend holds that the Naga engineered these aquifers, channeling mountain streams into hidden reservoirs to sustain their domain. Modern hydrogeologists, probing spring chemistry, find isotopic ratios that don't match surface rainfall, evidence of deep, ancient circulation. Beneath the jungle, water flows through strata older than the Himalayas themselves. But Naga lore extends beyond South Asia. In Cambodia's Angkor region, temple balustrades depict entwined serpents framing causeways. The Naga are revered as bearers of life-giving waters, tied to the monsoons that fill rice paddies above. Angkor archaeologists have uncovered hydraulic networks, canals, reservoirs, whose scale rivals any in the ancient world. Some suggest that Naga legends codify technical knowledge of water management, encoded in myth to protect it from invaders and the passage of time. Consider the rhythmic beat of conch shells in Sri Lankan Naga ceremonies, the haunting chant that calls to shape-shifting guardians. It's not mere performance. Acousticians note that in certain cave mouths, the conch's resonance amplifies, as though the rock itself responds. Sound becomes a bridge between worlds, summoning echoes of tunnels and halls deep below. In those echoes may lie instructions, frequencies that open secret doors, vibrations that clear rock debris, giving access to chambers untouched by light. As you follow a slender beam of lantern glow down a narrow tunnel, you pass a series of carved niches, each containing a small statuette of a cobra-headed figure, its hands folded in supplication. These shrines appear at regular intervals, like signposts guiding pilgrims. Each niche is aligned with subtle shifts in the tunnel's axis, as if charting an inner map. Cartographers of legend claim the Naga created these corridors to connect sacred sites across vast distances, linking river valleys, mountain temples, and the mythical city of Shambala, buried in Himalayan ice. There is, too, the biological mystery. Blind cave fish found only in these depths, their skin alight with iridescence, their genomes bearing ancient markers. They survive on nutrients leached from mineral veins, veins the Naga allegedly mined for mystical metals like Orichalcum. Miners in Andhra Pradesh once unearthed veins of an unexpected alloy, copper and zinc blended in proportions not found in nature. Could this be a Naga legacy, evidence of metalworking far beneath the Earth's crust. The idea of a subterranean society may seem fantastical, but the Naga stories persist across thousands of miles and millennia. They are not confined to one valley, but echo from Tamil Nadu to Tibet, from the Bay of Bengal to Angkor. Each culture adds its own cadence, its own symbols, yet the core remains the same: an underworld realm of serpents, crystal palaces, and hidden wisdom. Tonight, let that vision settle in your mind. An underground realm lit by phosphorescent gardens, where serpentine guardians watch over knowledge lost to surface calamities. Feel the pull of those carved reliefs, the promise of shimmering corridors winding beyond human reach. As you drift towards sleep, know that our next journey turns upward to snow-laced peaks, where another hidden city awaits. Soon, we will ascend into the Himalayas, seeking the whispered splendor of a kingdom untouched by time. In the original script, the narrator weaves together mythology, geography, and spiritual longing. Vivid sensory descriptions of crisp mountain air, the occasional flash of prayer flags on high ridges, and the notion that Shambala's gates respond not to maps, but to inner readiness. Transitions slide effortlessly from historical anecdotes, Pythagoras studying astral wisdom, to modern satellite scans hinting at hidden valleys. The writing uses evocative fragments, a place so pure it felt like breathing light, and questions that tug at the listener's curiosity. What if Shambala wasn't a myth, but an echo of a lost civilization? It balances poetic wonder with concrete clues, manuscript references, temple alignments, and accounts of explorers, to keep us suspended between belief and skepticism. Let's honor those strengths while forging our own path. We'll open with a fresh sensory moment, build both tension and intimacy, and end by pointing toward the next mystery, ancient metals, without naming it outright. A single prayer flag flutters overhead, its colors bleeding into the rose-tinted dawn. Cold mist clings to your boots as you crest the pass, the jagged peaks of the Himalayas stretching into infinity. In that quiet expanse, where eagles wheel above and distant bells echo from remote monasteries, you sense Shambala stirring, a city hidden not by walls, but by altitude and intention. Legends say Shambala lies where the air thins and the world grows still, a realm accessible only to those who have shed fear. In classical sources, from the Kalachakra Tantra to Pali Chronicles, its description is strangely consistent. Crystalline palaces shimmering under perpetual daylight, streets paved in jade and gold, and libraries of scrolls inscribed with cosmic prophecy. Yet no European map ever bore its name, and early explorers returned with empty hands but transformed spirits. The original storyteller blends these threads masterfully. Striking imagery, the sunlight danced across frozen terraces. Rhetorical questions, could a city exist beyond the reach of cartographers? And soft pivot points into scientific hints, magnetic anomalies recorded by Himalayan surveyors, or unexpected heat signatures beneath glacial ice. We'll borrow that balance of wonder and evidence, weaving a narrative that feels both grounded and transcendent. High on the windswept ridge, you come upon a circle of stones carved with concentric patterns, rings within rings, like ripples in a mountain lake. Local guides speak of these as the chakras of the earth, markers aligning with solstice sunrise. When drone surveys mapped the site, they revealed that each stone's shadow at dawn falls across the next, an ancient calendar built in rock. Who shaped these monoliths at 15,000 feet, where wood and mortar never reach? Beneath this rock ring, cave entrances yawl like silent mouths. Monks in crimson robes believe these tunnels descend for miles, opening into hidden valleys that never see winters freeze. Geothermal springs here bubble beneath the earth, nourishing mosses and rare orchids. Botanists sampling the water found trace minerals, lithium and manganese in ratios unmatched on the surface, suggesting subterranean waterways threaded through mineral veins. Could these have been the lifelines for an underground Shambala, sustaining it through centuries of blizzards? Yet for every geological clue, there's a spiritual echo. In the Kalachakra texts, Shambala's king, Rudra Chakrin, is said to consult cosmic maps drawn on metal plates, then send out envoys only when the world above teeters toward collapse. He arrives not on horses, but in silent caskets of sunlight, guided by ritual chant. Early 20th century Soviet expeditions obsessed over these tales, funded by secret societies seeking Aryan roots. Some team members swore they glimpsed brass doors carved with mantras, sealed since time immemorial. Modern satellite imagery offers tantalizing hints. Emerald green oases ringed by circular terraces, deep within valleys that have no roads. Peak to valley color shifts suggest vegetation too lush for this altitude, unless warmed by hidden geothermal flows. Seismic readings picked up rhythmic vibrations beneath the ice pack, like distant drums. Could these be the pulse of Shambala's heart, beating beneath kilometers of snow? Your lamp picks out a scripture carved low on the tunnel wall, written in an alphabet unrecognizable yet oddly familiar. Curved lines and straight strokes echoing Tibetan, Sanskrit, and something else. Epigraphers have photographed these panels but hesitate to publish. They hint at a script older than any Himalayan dynasty. It reads, "When the world darkens, the gates will open. Seek not by map, but by truth." As you move deeper, the passage widens into a cavern so tall that its ceiling vanishes into shadows. In the center stands an altar of white quartz, its facets catching stray beams of torchlight and flinging shards of rainbow across the walls. Around it, niches hold bronze statues of hooded figures, their eyes ringed in lapis lazuli. You feel their gaze turning toward you, as if waiting for a vow, a promise, a heart grown pure. But no legend survives intact. Every account is tinged with secrecy. Tibetan sojourners who were turned back by unseen guardians, British officers in the 1930s who abandoned maps they'd been given, whispering of places that did not exist. The aura of Shambala lies not in its discoverability, but in its choice of visitors. It's less a city and more a mirror, reflecting who you are and who you could become. Now, as you retrace your steps toward the dawn-lit world above, let the memory of those quartz prisms and silent statues linger. Feel the pull of paths untrodden and the soft promise of knowledge guarded in icy vaults. Tomorrow, we will follow the trail of a metal more mythical than any other, an alloy spoken of by Plato and gleaming in sunken harbors, casting new light on what civilizations we thought we lost. The first glint of morning light catches on a copper-green surface, as if the dawn itself were impressed upon metal. You run your fingers along the edge of a small ingot, its weight surprisingly heavy, its texture smooth yet rippled with age. This is the legend of Orichalcum, the fabled alloy spoken of by Plato and whispered through centuries of myth. Tonight, we journey into its mystery, tracing the threads of ancient metallurgy and the secrets buried in Earth's hidden veins. In the original narrative, the storyteller entwines mythic grandeur with tantalizing facts. Plato's description of Atlantean temples lined with walls of orichalcum shines like poetry, followed by the abrupt, "but none has ever been found," a turn that cuts the dream short and propels us into the quest. We hear snippets of marine archaeologists dredging ingots off Sicily's coast, glimpses of chemical analyses hinting at zinc-copper blends, and the rhetorical flourish that asks, could ancient smiths have mastered alloys lost to time? Transitions slip seamlessly from epic to empirical, and every revelation blooms out of curiosity. Here, we'll honor that balance of wonder and evidence while crafting our own voice, intimate, reflective, and rolling gently like the lullabies you cradle before sleep. Beneath a cluster of rocky terraces on a windswept island, you uncover a cache of metal bars, each one mottled in shades of green and gold. The air smells faintly of salt and rust. You cradle a bar in your hand and notice tiny veins of crystalline luster dancing along its edges, an alloy no modern smelter can quite replicate. This is the 26,000-year-old ingot recovered off Sicily in 2015, hailed by some as the closest thing to Plato's Orichalcum. Its chemical fingerprint, roughly 75% copper, 20% zinc, and elusive trace elements that hint at a furnace recipe lost to history. Plato wrote that Orichalcum was second only to gold in value, a metal that shimmered like fire under temple lights. He claimed Atlantean priests used it to line great halls and pave sacred courts. It is said the Egyptians themselves marveled at its hue, eager to trade for ingots that now lie silent on the seabed, or so the story goes. But all we had for millennia were myths until modern science dared to peer into the past. Metallurgists analyzing the Sicilian ingots found microstructures resembling high-temperature casting techniques far beyond what Bronze Age artisans could achieve. The copper-zinc ratio is eerily consistent with descriptions in ancient texts. No more than a coincidence, the skeptics insist, yet it has never been duplicated by experimental archaeologists. Every attempt at recreation yields impurities or brittleness. The original alloy seems to require a precise furnace atmosphere, a mix of charcoal gases and volcanic heat that only vanished volcanoes can provide. But Orichalcum's story isn't confined to the Mediterranean. In the ruins of a sunken harbour near Cuba, divers discovered massive blocks encrusted with green patina. Chemical tests suggest an alloy composition unnervingly similar to the Sicilian finds. Those who study these blocks argue they once formed the decorative friezes of a port constructed during the Younger Dryas, roughly 12,800 years ago. If true, the timeline of advanced metallurgy stretches far earlier than conventional history allows. Think of the implications. A network of seafaring traders carrying metal recipes across oceans, an exchange of furnace secrets from Atlantis, if it existed, to far-flung shores. The metal itself becomes a thread weaving together ruined cities, drowned temples, and myths of golden ages. Orichalcum is more than a prized metal. It is a cipher for lost technology. Yet for every clue, more questions surface. How did ancient smiths source the zinc? Zinc ore has a low boiling point and easily vaporizes in a typical smelting furnace. To capture it alongside copper demands a furnace design that condenses zinc vapor back into alloy. Some scholars suggest Egyptian tomb paintings depicting unusual furnaces and bellows may hold the key, encoded as sacred imagery to conceal the art from rivals. Further east, off Japan's Yonaguni monument, researchers found small metallic spheres embedded in basalt crevices. Initial radiocarbon dating of surrounding sediments places them at around 9000 BCE. Their composition? An exotic blend of copper, nickel, and trace cobalt, another alloy unmatched by natural processes. Could these beads be relics of a Pacific outpost mastering orichalcum-like alloys independently? Or were they remnants of a single worldwide tradition shared in a prehistory when continents were connected by knowledge rather than roads? Every new find nudges at our chronology. Could Orichalcum, as Plato claimed, have been the standard metal of an advanced civilization wiped away by cataclysm? And if that civilization spread its metallurgical know-how so widely, why did those techniques vanish completely until modern laboratories rediscovered odd ingots lying on the ocean floor? The theory gaining traction is that Orichalcum represented more than ornamentation. It carried symbolic weight, an almost magical metal used for ritual objects, conductive wiring within temple walls, or even primitive circuitry powered by volcanic springs. Its luminescence under torchlight would have inspired awe, reinforcing the aura of kings and priests. But fear accompanies wonder, and when the world reset, whether through flood, fire, or famine, those furnace secrets became too dangerous to remember. They were sealed in buried ingots and lost in collapsed kilns, waiting until humanity relearned the ancient art. As you set down the ingot, its dull weight still sings of hidden fires. You feel the pull of deep deposits awaiting rediscovery, in the crags of extinct volcanoes, in submerged river canyons, in caves sealed by shifting tectonic plates. The next chapter of our journey leads us from metal to stone, a world locked in ice, then shattered by abrupt climate change. We will examine the scars in the Earth's crust, the abrupt freeze-thaw cycles, and the geological echoes that may explain why an advanced metallurgy could flourish and then vanish in the blink of geological time. Sleep lightly now, and let the metals of legend glitter in your dreams, guiding you toward the younger Dryas and the fingerprints it left on our world. A hush settles over the moonlit plain as you kneel beside a narrow trench, your fingertips brushing away centuries of silt to reveal a ribbon of charcoal, black as obsidian and more brittle than the soil around it. Radiocarbon dating pegs this layer at about 12,820 years ago, and as you stare into that streak of ancient fire, you feel the planet itself holding its breath. Welcome to the younger Dryas, a sudden plunge back into near-glacial cold that jolted Earth's post-Ice Age thaw to an abrupt halt. Geologists first brought this chill into focus by drilling ice cores in Greenland. There, trapped air bubbles recorded a 9 to 15 degrees Celsius temperature drop in mere decades, a blink on geological timescales. Pollen counts collapsed, charcoal spiked, and nano-diamonds began to surface in ocean sediments, hinting at a violent cosmic encounter. The original storyteller drops you into this drama with cinematic flair, glaciers groaning, mammoths stumbling into blizzards, human hearths abandoned under swirling snow. Then, like a dive team charting uncharted wreckage, they cut to core samples, chemical fingerprints that point toward a comet strike, wildfires ignited on 2 continents simultaneously, and floods that carve new channels through what had been fertile grasslands. Let's take that same plunge, but with a sleeker current of narrative, guiding you through the evidence and emotion in equal measure. First, the fire. Across North America and Eurasia, dozens of sediment cores yield layers of burnt wood and charred pollen. Some scientists estimate that a comet fragment, shattering in Earth's upper atmosphere, streaked across the sky, ejecting enough heat and debris to ignite vast tracts of forest in an instant. Smoke veiled the sun, plunging daytime temperatures into frost. Under those darkened skies, vegetation faltered, herds of woolly creatures dwindled, and human bands faced the grim choice: adapt or perish. Next, the flood. Imagine Lake Agassiz, a freshwater giant rivaling the Great Lakes, held at bay by a natural ice dam. Then, a sudden breach. Trillions of gallons of water surge into the North Atlantic, releasing a pulse of cold meltwater that snuffs out the ocean's conveyor belt, the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation. Warm currents stall, Western Europe braces for an Ice Age sequel. In geological records, that deluge appears as a fresh layer of fine silt, an undersea sediment whispering of megafloods that rewrote coastlines. No single cause explains every clue. Instead, a composite picture emerges. A comet strike ignites continent-spanning blazes. The resulting ash and soot blot out the sun. Then, melting ice and shifting currents trigger a freshwater flood that halts ocean heat transport. In the fallout, droughts ravage monsoonal systems as far apart as the Sahara and the Yangtze. In South America's pampas, loess deposits thicken. In China's Yellow River Basin, dust swept in by fierce winds blankets loess plateaus. Even the Nile's annual floods dwindle, recorded in Egyptian sediment layers as unexplained dry spells. Yet amid catastrophe, life endures and humans adapt. At Monteverde in Chile, the remains of small hearths suggest coastal foraging survived where megafauna hunters once thrived. Stone tools transform, from massive spear points to slender, versatile microliths better suited to fishing and small game hunting. In Europe, what was once a reindeer hunter toolkit gives way to blades and scrapers tailored for diverse diets. Genetic studies of flora and fauna reveal bottleneck effects, brief reductions in population followed by rapid recovery and diversification. In North America, Clovis sites, once thought emblematic of a pan-continental culture, abruptly vanish. New traditions appear, carrying technologies that spread southward into Mesoamerica. It was not global collapse alone, but global reinvention. Social networks extended, groups traded resources, shared techniques, and forged alliances that would shape the seeds of agriculture. Meanwhile, archaeology uncovers a surprising continuity. In Pennsylvania, hearths at the Gainey site show new hearthstone patterns better suited to slow roasting of nuts and tubers. In the Old World, improved water management systems appear in the Levant, hinting that drought-scarce zones inspired early irrigation. The Younger Dryas crisis acted as a forge, tempering human ingenuity. The true drama lies in how swiftly recovery followed. Within a millennium, pollen records show birch forests reclaiming Europe, then pine and oak. In the Americas, the Clovis disappearance gives way to Folsom cultures. By 11,500 years ago, warming resumed, and with it came new possibilities. Domestication of plants in the Fertile Crescent, settlement of river valleys across Eurasia, and the first sparks of civilization. As you rise from the trench, charcoal still clinging to your gloves, you sense the pulse of that ancient frieze beneath your feet. A reminder that Earth's climate can flip in the time it takes to plant a single tree. It also reminds you that human resilience is woven from adaptability, from forging fresh paths when old ones vanish. The Younger Dryas may seem a distant cataclysm, but its echoes resonate today. Our modern world, poised on the brink of rapid change, can learn from ancestors who turned crisis into innovation. They branched into agriculture, mapped new routes, and laid the groundwork for urban centers to come. Soon, we will shift from ice and ash to ink and parchment as we explore an enigmatic 16th century chart that sketches vanished coastlines and hints at lands drowned by rising seas. We will peel back the layers of that map, where myth and cartography entwine. But for now, let the tapestry of ice, fire, and flood stir your thoughts as you drift into sleep, ready for maritime mysteries and sunken realms awaiting just beyond the horizon. A hush fills the library as you lean over the time-worn parchment, its edges singed by centuries of candlelight. At first glance, it looks like any other portolan chart: coiled compass roses, scalloped coastlines, and clusters of Arabic script. But then your finger traces a ribbon of blue ink along South America's southern tip, continuing straight into an ice-clad Antarctica hundreds of miles north of any known shoreline. You realize you're not looking at fantasy. You're staring at the Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513, yet depicting lands that Europeans wouldn't confirm for centuries. How did Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis assemble such precise details? His preface names 100 source charts, Portuguese, Arabic, even ancient ones, but none of those should have shown an ice-free Antarctica. This isn't mere cartographic flair, it's a puzzle keyed to pre-satellite knowledge. Centuries before Google Earth, mariners crossed open water with only the stars, the wind, and their instruments. Yet Piri Reis's map pins the Falkland Islands in exact latitude and captures South America's coastline with better accuracy than many 18th century charts. His Atlantic legend reads like a navigator's log, not a scribe's fantasy. On this side lies the known coast of Brazil, he writes then, beyond the land of ice, where no man walks. Later, scholars discovered that the southern continent on his map aligns not with ice fields, but with pre-Holocene shorelines, when Antarctica was warm enough to be charted. Some propose Piri Reis inherited fragments of an even older world chart, surviving from vanished seafaring civilizations. Others suspect an uncanny combination of sailors' hearsay and ingenious triangulation. Either way, the result is impossible to ignore, a 500-year-old map that bridges myth and geodesy. As you follow your finger along the ocean's edge, you spot another curiosity. A slender ribbon of land east of South America, curving like a comet's tail, too narrow to be Brazil, too stubby to be any known island. It matches only one hypothetical landmass, the fabled Atlantis. Could this map be a copy of a copy, filtered through centuries of retelling, yet still preserving a sliver of truth? To unravel this, let's sail into the layers of the map itself. First, the pigments. Modern analysis shows the reds and blues derived from cinnabar and indigo, imported materials that Piri Reis's workshop would have prized. The parchment, carbon-dated, confirms a 16th century origin. Ink composition aligns with Ottoman recipes, yet stylistic flourishes, arabesques around coastal cities, tiny drawings of native peoples, mirror Mamluk and Andalusian traditions. It's a cartographic tapestry woven from east and west. Next, the compilation methods. Piri Reis claims to have consulted charts of the Spanish crown and Portuguese navigation logs, but the precision of some coastlines suggests observational data gathered by sailors centuries earlier, possibly Phoenician, Carthaginian, or even Atlantean survivors rumoured to have traversed these seas. While mainstream historians attribute anomalies to periodic copying errors, the consistent depiction of Antarctica's northern shore, ice-free and mountainous, resists accidental misplacement. Then there's the oceanographic detail. The map shows Gulf Stream eddies, shallow shoals, and safe anchorages in exactly the right places. Modern reconstructions of early 16th century navigation methods demonstrate that even skilled pilots would struggle to chart such subtleties without systematic depth soundings. Did Piri Reis have access to secret pilot books passed down from one maritime power to the next? Or did he assemble eyewitness sketches from sailors who'd pushed beyond familiar routes? Consider the margins, too. Marginalia, in Ottoman Turkish, quotes a now-lost poem praising the sea god Siavash, and speaks of a path beneath the waves. These cryptic verses may have served as veiled references to submerged towns, prompting mapmakers to note coastlines long since drowned by rising post-glacial seas. The final layer is the map's afterlife. For centuries it hung in Topkapi Palace, unseen by Western eyes until 1929. When scholars first examined it, the global cartographic community exploded in debate. Some hailed it as proof of ancient, advanced maritime cultures. Others dismissed it as a curious amalgam of hearsay and guesswork. Yet every new technical test only deepens the mystery rather than dispelling it. Now, you roll up the parchment and glance at the horizon beyond the library window. The ocean itself seems alive with uncharted contours and sunken empires waiting beneath its waves. As the lamplight wavers on your map case, you feel the tug of undiscovered truths. In just a few moments, we will turn from inked legends on parchment to the stone-hewn enclosures of Karahantepe, where 12,000-year-old ancestors sculpted their own cartographies in basalt and ritual space. Until then, let the shifting lines of Piri Reis's world guide your dreams across horizonless waters. A tremor of curiosity shivers beneath your feet as you approach Karahantepe's half-excavated terraces. This isn't a village or a fortress. It's a deliberate burial of knowledge, stones arrayed like a message in code. Sunlight skips over T-shaped monoliths, stained by centuries of wind and rain, as if reluctant to reveal the story they guard. In this forgotten corner of Anatolia, 12,000 years ago, someone chose to carve their legacy into living rock and to hide it beneath the soil. You step into the circular enclosure, nearly 20 feet across, where pillars stand in pairs like silent sentinels. Their vertical stances feel human, yet their phallic forms pulse with a strangely intimate symbolism. Creation, regeneration, the pulse of life itself. No mortar binds these stones. No crane or iron tool left a telltale mark. Their precision suggests a mastery of geometry and labor organization that should not belong to a hunter-gatherer era. Whoever built this had both vision and methods we still struggle to comprehend. Every pillar bears carvings, serpentine lines that twist into knots, abstract glyphs echoing no known script, animal forms rendered with brutalist simplicity. A fox here, a scorpion there, creatures that haunted early humans' dreams and nightmares alike. Yet these images are not decorative. They form an iconographic network, a lexicon of meaning that once resonated in ritual gatherings. Stand on the central flagstone and you can almost feel the hum of collective breath, the low chant awaiting release. Behind the circle lies a subterranean gallery carved directly into limestone. Descend cautiously, and the air cools. Water drips in irregular pulses. The walls inside are unnervingly smooth, punctuated by shallow niches that once held objects, perhaps timber beams, or offerings that long since perished. Acoustic tests reveal that a whisper at one end carries clearly to the opposite wall, suggesting sound played a role. Ritual chants, signals, knowledge transmitted through vibration. Here, architecture and technology fuse into something that defies simple classification. Why bury it? Karahantepe's builders didn't abandon their creation. They entombed it in layers of earth, stone, and deliberate backfill, then walked away. It feels like a time capsule sealed against catastrophe, a library encoded in stone for unknown readers of a distant future. Did they foresee a deluge, a social collapse, or an ice age thrusting them back into raw survival? Or did they guard secrets so potent, star maps, seasonal calendars, spiritual protocols, that exposure would unleash forces beyond their control? Surrounding the central circle, smaller enclosures and passageways unfold like corridors in a memory palace. One chamber hints at rudimentary plumbing, channels carved to direct rainwater into stone-lined basins. Nearby, a 7-pillar cluster evokes cosmic numerology. 7 days, 7 stars, 7 layers of underworld. The builders encoded meaning across multiple dimensions, spatial geometry, acoustic resonance, numerical symbolism. Yet Karahantepe offers no written record, only glyphs and architecture. Its silence challenges us. Can we learn their language through pattern alone? Modern researchers pore over satellite scans that reveal a network of similar monuments buried just out of sight. In Kahantepe, Göbekli Tepe, other Anatolian sites, suggesting a region-wide tradition of knowledge preservation. These communities weren't isolated. They shared blueprints and rituals, a web of megalithic hubs that anchored memory in stone. As twilight falls, the pillars cast long shadows that dance across the trench floor, reminders that light and dark interplay in both nature and myth. One pillar, fallen in antiquity, carries deeper carvings, concentric rings that some interpret as an eclipse event, others as layers of the earth itself. The ancients encoded celestial catastrophe and geological upheaval into a monolith, perhaps a warning, perhaps an invocation. What remains clear is this: Karahantepe was never a dwelling. It was a sanctuary of ideas, a deliberate intersection of science, art, and ceremony. Its builders sculpted not merely for the gods, but for future intelligence, ours, hoping that we might arrive curious, decode the patterns, and rekindle a conversation interrupted by time. As darkness settles, the site's silhouette transforms. Pillars become phantoms, corridors deepen into mystery. But the story does not end here. Across distant seas, islands of stone stand sentinel over their own ancient secrets. In our next journey, we will venture into those megalithic realms, where cathedrals of coral and basalt rise from turquoise shallows, and the architecture of memory reaches across ocean swells. Sleep now, with echoes of stone at your back, and dream of the island citadels that await discovery in the chapter ahead. Megalithic island civilizations. Long before compasses dared to point north, scattered islands in the vast Pacific stood as silent archives of human ingenuity. Their stone towers and monolithic platforms, weathered by centuries of salt and wind, still whisper tales of engineers who dared defy the limits of their time. Tonight, as you drift into slumber, imagine we sail into a realm where coral-encrusted blocks form labyrinthine temples, and every carved groove holds a fragment of a civilization that thrived on the edge of the known world. Our journey begins on the wind-swept shores of Pohnpei, where Nan Madol's canals shimmer like obsidian ribbons under a moonlit sky. Here, nearly 100 artificial islets, hewn from sculpted basalt, float upon a lagoon, as though Atlas himself fashioned them to anchor heaven to earth. How did builders transport blocks weighing dozens of tons without wheels or draft animals? Some scholars propose sophisticated rafts and bamboo rollers, while others argue for a system of levers and concerted human effort. Either way, each method demands a level of organization and technica. Venture next to Tonga, where the Ha'amonga a Maui trilithon stands sentinel atop a grassy plateau. These three stones, perfectly balanced, were erected by the Tui Tonga dynasty as a demonstration of royal power and, some believe, celestial alignment. At dawn on the solstice, the rising sun slips precisely between the two uprights, casting a slender beam that illuminates the central lintel. Such precision suggests not only architectural prowess, but also a deep understanding of astronomy, lore passed down through generations of navigators who read the stars like maps. Yet these are not isolated marvels. A network of oral histories binds them, from the magnificent steps of Yap's stone moneybanks to the submerged city ruins off Okinawa. Myth and memory converge, suggesting a shared cultural vocabulary. Songs sung in the Polynesian Triangle carry references to isles of basalt giants, while Micronesian chants describe temples that rose on tides. Genetic studies even hint at ancient migrations, tiny traces of a ghost population that reached far-flung atolls and left behind legends rather than parchment's new text document. Consider Ulithi Atoll's marauding reefs. The interior lagoon, dotted with low islets, conceals platforms constructed from stone, rubble and coral. These platforms once supported thatched halls and sacred meeting places, yet today they are submerged under meters of water, testament to shifting sea levels and forgotten societies. Modern divers mapping the reef floors have uncovered walls aligned with precision, as though local architects had plotted out blueprints centuries before CAD software existed. Every megalith here is more than mortarless masonry. It's a manifesto etched in basalt. Chains of petroglyphs, spirals, wave patterns, and anthropomorphic figures decorate the stones, speaking of cosmology, kingship, and the ocean's dominion. In some temples, high-relief turtles and shark motifs guard entryways, invoking deities that ruled beneath and above the waves. One could spend a lifetime tracing the subtle variations from island to island, each carving a dialect in stone. But as mighty as these structures are, they face inexorable change. Erosion, climate shifts, and human encroachment gnaw at their foundations. Archaeologists now race against time, using LiDAR and ground-penetrating radar to map submerged quays and terraces before they disappear. Every recovered fragment, a chiseled tool, a broken statue, becomes a keystone to reconstructing the blueprint of these vanished kingdoms. Yet the essence of these island civilizations lives on in local ceremonies. On Pohnpei, dancers reenact the barefooted transport of basalt blocks. In Tonga, elders recite chants that recount the binding of islands into a single realm under divine mandate. Across Oceania, every festival and story carries a strand of this megalithic tapestry, proof that monuments need not stand unbroken to endure. As you let the night carry you into dreams, hold fast to this thought. These stones, scattered across the deep, are not relics of a lost age, but the prologue to our shared future. They remind us that even in isolation, humans build bridges of stone and song, forging connections that outlast empires. And somewhere beyond the horizon, new chapters await those who listen to the murmur of waves, the chorus of stars, and the silent song of megaliths calling travelers home. In our next chapter, we will decode the cryptic carvings that crown our journey, a message etched in time, waiting to reveal how ancient minds mapped the very architecture of thought. Until then, let the rhythm of the ocean's pulse guide your dreams. A hush falls over the frozen north, where daylight lingers like a reluctant guest. Here, at the brink of our known world, legends whisper of a land bathed in endless light, an Arctic Eden lost to time. This is Hyperborea, a name that once danced on the lips of priests and philosophers, and still lingers in the wind that sweeps across the ice. Long before satellite imagery, people looked north and saw more than ice. Greek storytellers spoke of a paradise beyond Boreas, where the sun never weary. To the ancients, Hyperborea was more than myth. It was a promise. They imagined temples of polished marble that caught the golden rays, orchards heavy with fruit, and a people untouched by age or sorrow. Yet for centuries, modern scholars dismissed these tales as poetic fancy. How could a civilization flourish where frost reigns? Then again, oracles do not spin lies, and so we ask, could a pre-glacial world have sheltered life at the pole? Slowly, whispers of truth seep through the ice. In the late 19th century, explorers reported open waters near the pole, strange plant fossils far north, and even the bones of warm-blooded creatures buried in permafrost. These hints of a temperate past upended everything we thought we knew about Earth's climate. Flash forward to today. Deep core samples reveal Arctic summers once rivaled those of modern Europe. Forests thrived where now nothing grows but lichen. Rivers carved valleys beneath a sky both kinder and wilder. But that Eden came with a pivot point, the end of the last ice age, roughly 12,000 years ago, when glaciers retreated and then surged back in a cataclysmic dance. Could a civilization have risen in those fleeting interludes of warmth? Imagine communities building sanctuaries of stone on shores now submerged, worshipping the midnight sun, charting stars unseen from temperate latitudes. Their greatest feat would have been surviving the glacial pulse that followed, a pulse strong enough to erase their traces from the face of the Earth. Enter the theory of crustal shift. Famously championed by Charles Hapgood and even eyed by Albert Einstein, it proposes that Earth's outer shell can slip in a sudden lurch, not slow continental drift, but a planetary reset. In that instant, habitable lands could swap places. Fertile north would freeze, tropical zones turn barren, and entire cultures vanish under ice. Such an event might explain why ancient maps, like the Orontius-Phineas chart of 1537, depict polar coastlines free of ice, dotted with rivers and settlements. Who sketched those details? And how did they receive their knowledge? Could they have inherited memories of a time when Hyperborea was real? We find similar echoes among Arctic peoples. Inuit legends speak of a warm land at the pole, ringed by mountains and inhabited by spirits. Norse sagas tell of Thule, a realm of twilight summers. Celtic bards claimed that the dead journeyed north to a realm of eternal rest. When myths align across continents, at least one question demands an answer: coincidence or collective remembrance? Today's researchers scour satellite images for submerged terraces, sonar scans for buried structures, radiocarbon dates for any sign of human handiwork beneath the pack ice. Every anomaly, an oddly shaped rock formation, a geometric pattern on the seafloor, becomes a thread in this Arctic tapestry. Yet even the most tantalizing discovery leaves us asking, what stories did these people tell by their hearths? What songs did they sing beneath auroras that danced like celestial fire? We will probably never hear their voices, but we can feel their echoes in the north wind. And so, as the Arctic night falls once more, we turn our gaze toward the forgotten temples and sunlit groves of Hyperborea. We follow in the footsteps of dreamers who believed in a world beyond ice, who refused to let myth sink into legend. Sleep now, carried on the cold air of possibility. Let these visions of a sunlit pole drift through your dreams, where ancient halls stand intact beneath ancient stars. And when morning comes, be ready to seek the secrets deeper in the ice, where the story continues, in the lands of Hyperborea revisited, ancient Arctic peoples. Sweet dreams beneath the silent glow of the polar sky. Before we plunge into the heart of this frozen fable, imagine a voice drawing you in with a single question. What if the cradle of civilization lay not under a desert sun, but beneath the polar midnight sun? In whispers passed down by shamans and scribes, there echoes a promise of Hyperborea, a realm of eternal warmth hidden beyond the edge of ice. Tonight, let's follow those echoes and see what they might reveal. They called it Hyperborea, beyond Boreas, the god of the north wind. To ancient Greeks, it was a rumor, an impossible dream where winter never came, and people lived without age or disease. They spoke a tongue unknown to scholars, yet every oracle understood their song. Apollo himself was said to spend his winters there, whisked across an unending summer sky by a golden swan. Poetry? Or a memory of something deeper? Modern historians dismiss Hyperborea as allegory, a metaphor for unreachable perfection. And yet, find one culture that never notices the same shimmer on their horizon. The Celts told of Hyperborea, a land where heroes found rest. Norse skalds sang of Odin-Saka, a realm where the sun dipped but did not die. Even Inuit hunters, living on the very ice that should have nothing to offer, spoke of a hidden warmth at the pole, guarded by mountain spirits. What are we to make of this uncanny chorus of global testimony, shared delusion, or a fragmented memory of a time when the Arctic was unfrozen? In the 19th century, explorers returned with tales of open seas at the pole. Fossil forests lay buried beneath permafrost. Bones of tropical mammals lay scattered where polar bears now roam. Scientists charted lush landscapes, rivers coursing through what is today a graveyard of ice. And then came the younger Dryas, 12 millennia ago, a planetary reckoning of melting glaciers, rising seas, and a climate that tore whole ecosystems apart. Could a temperate society, thriving in what is now deathly cold, have been entombed beneath that ice? The idea, once deemed fringe, found an unlikely champion. Einstein himself corresponded with Charles Hapgood on Earth crust displacement, the bold suggestion that our planet's shell might shift in one cataclysmic lurch, vaulting the pole into different latitudes overnight. Picture this: a civilization waking to frozen skies, their cities buried beneath a glacier's weight before they could even cry alarm. Their culture, advanced, peaceful, devoted to art and music, would vanish, leaving only murmurs. But what clues remain? Look again at the ancient Oronteus Phineus map of 1531. It portrays the polar regions not as white wastelands, but as coastlines and mountains, detailed waterways and island chains. Who traced such lines so long before modern cartography? Still more intriguing are the genetic quirks of northern peoples. Certain mitochondrial DNA markers carry an echo of migrations that defy the out-of-Africa narrative. Unusual alleles cluster in Arctic populations, hinting at ancestral roots in places that, by today's geography, simply cannot be found. Could these strands of DNA be the threads of Hyperborea's survivors carried aloft on boats across Beringia, seeding the first human settlements of the New World? And what of the megaliths, those mathematical marvels of stone found around the equator? Their alignments to solstices and stars often point northward, as if each temple and tomb were oriented toward a vanished axis mundi. Not the current North Pole, but an earlier pivot, a celestial anchor that no longer reigns the sky. So here is the speculative crescendo. Hyperborea was more than myth. It was the world's first blueprint for utopia, a cultural singularity so ancient it became legend before history even began. Its memory survives in myths, in maps, in our blood, whispering of a time when peace was not a dream, but a way of life. When the north was not the edge of despair, but the dawn of possibility. As the ice claimed their cities, Hyperboreans slipped into memory, yet they never truly died. Their legacy courses through DNA, echoes in sunstones aligned to lost poles, and reverberates in every tale of a golden age beyond the horizon. And now, as we let this vision settle, consider what other marvels lie buried by time's frost. Tomorrow's chapter will draw us even deeper into stone temples older than history itself, where inscriptions carved in living rock may hold the next key to humanity's hidden past. Drift now into sleep, carried on the breath of Arctic winds, dreaming of a land that once was, and may yet be, just beyond the ice. A single river once coursed through what is now parched desert, a lifeline so vast it cradled cities of unimaginable scale. In the hushed silence beneath centuries of sand, archaeologists are unearthing the ruins of a metropolis older than Harappa, older than Mohenjo-Daro, its foundations whispering of a civilization that flourished at the dawn of human history. Why has the Sarasvati River vanished? Satellite data reveal a dry riverbed stretching hundreds of miles across northern India and Pakistan, its course matching descriptions in the Rig Veda, an ancient hymn that paints this waterway as the lifeblood of a golden age. Now, beneath the sun-bleached plains of Haryana and Rajasthan, massive mud-brick walls and grid-like streets emerge, carbon-dated to 5000 BCE and beyond. Picture this. A team of remote sensing experts detects geometric anomalies under half a kilometre of sediment. Excavations confirm a sprawling city, its urban plan as precise as anything built millennia later. Streets intersect at right angles. Granaries and workshops stand in orderly rows. Reservoirs large enough to rival modern stadiums promise the ancients mastered water management. Here, in what should have been barren dust, lies proof of a people who didn't just adapt, they excelled. Mainstream archaeologists once viewed these Vedic hymns as poetic fancy. Now, the finds demand a reckoning. How did these builders achieve architectural uniformity across settlements hundreds of miles apart? Why are there no palaces or elaborate temples, only standardized homes, public baths, and silent avenues? And perhaps most puzzlingly, why did the Sarasvati dry up, swallowing these cities whole? The Rig Veda doesn't merely mention Sarasvati, it immortalizes her as a goddess, mighty, unbroken mother of waters. Some hymns speak of grand citadels with 100 gates, streets lined with scholars debating astronomy. Could these verses be more than metaphor? What if ritual and poetry served as the only archives for a civilization that understood the fragility of ink on palm leaves? Imagine hymns as cultural fossils, scripts of stone replaced by scripts of song. As monsoons shifted courses and tectonic shifts drained the river, these cities were abandoned, their stories preserved in ritual and verse rather than carved in stone. In that silence, knowledge hid. Mathematical precision in urban grids, hydraulic genius in reservoir engineering, and perhaps even astronomical observatories aligned with solstices. What if the Sarasvati Valley represents the world's first true urban revolution? A cradle of civilization that predated Mesopotamia's ziggurats and Egypt's pyramids, graduating humanity from scattered farming villages to interconnected city-states. And when the river vanished, perhaps through gradual desiccation or cataclysmic upheaval, this culture didn't vanish entirely. It transformed, its essence flowing into Hindu scripture, philosophy, and ritual. So, as you let your eyelids grow heavy, consider this. Hidden beneath 5 millennia of dust lies a city that taught the world how to build, govern, and remember. Its streets may have turned to sand, but its memory courses on in verse. And soon, we'll turn our ears to submerged stone paths and sunken temples where another civilization defied the depths, waiting to whisper its own ancient secrets. Sleep now to the rhythm of lost rivers, and prepare for the silent stones that rise from ocean floors to challenge everything we think we know. Beneath the glittering surface of the Persian Gulf lies a story older than dynasties, an island kingdom whispered of in Sumerian clay tablets as a land of divine abundance. Here, pearl-white shores once lured caravans from distant Mesopotamia, bearing copper and carnelian in exchange for the purest water, the sweetest dates, and the promise of immortality. Tonight, let us sail eastward to Dilmun, where myth and history entwine beneath the same desert sun. In the dawn of recorded time, Sumerian scribes called Dilmun the place where the sun rises, a bridge between earth and the realm of the gods. As trade routes wove from the Tigris-Euphrates basin to its ports, merchants chronicled palm-fringed oases so lush they seemed enchanted. Yet these accounts tread the line between factual ledger and poetic hymn. Were they praising inland markets, or describing a real island that once stood proud where today's map shows only shallow shoals? Myths both reveal and conceal. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, the hero seeks Utnapishtim, the survivor of the Great Flood, in a land pure and bright, where the gods showered immortality. Clay seals depict winged bulls greeting visitors at city gates, suggesting Dilmun's rulers claimed divine favor. Interwoven with these grand images are subtler hints, lists of commodities, canal networks, and burial mounds, evidence that Dilmun was firmly anchored in the human world, not merely a poet's paradise. Modern archaeology has traced Dilmun's heart to Bahrain, where tumuli rise like low pyramids across sandy plains. Excavations reveal graves laden with jewelry, proof of a people who believed in an afterlife rich with offerings. Nearby, the ruins of ancient docks and imported pottery from Oman, Iran, and Mesopotamia speak of a kingdom that mastered sea lanes long before empires claimed those same waters. Visualize Arabian dhows gliding into Dilmun's creeks, their hulls creaking under the weight of lapis lazuli and tin. On shore, scribes recorded transactions on clay envelopes sealed with cylinder stamps, the earliest form of branding. This was more than a way station. Dilmun was a promise of purity and power. Kings in paid tribute in copper and ivory, and received date syrup rumored to cure disease. Trade fueled its wealth, but belief in its sanctity sustained its reputation. By the late 2nd millennium BCE, records of Dilmun grow scarce. Rising sea levels may have swallowed low-lying settlements, while shifting trade routes favored new powers on the Arabian Peninsula. Gradually, the island slipped from memory, preserved only in mythic echoes, like an island that existed more in the imaginations of scribes than on any merchant's map. Yet Dilmun did not vanish entirely. In later Babylonian texts, it reappears as the backdrop for creation myths, a pristine shore where fresh water met salt, a symbol of perfect beginnings. Zoroastrian priests invoked its image in rituals celebrating renewal, and today, Bahrain's ancient burial mounds stand sentinel to a civilization that fused commerce with cosmology. As you let your eyes grow heavy, picture Dilmun's harbor at sunset. Palm fronds rustling in a warm breeze, wooden sailboats rocking gently, and priests chanting to deities of sea and spring. Sense the weight of copper ingots being unloaded, the glitter of carnelian beads slipping through a merchant's fingers, and the hush of pilgrims drawing water from a sacred well. Soon we will leave these pearly beaches and venture northward into carved sandstone cliffs, where another ancient world awaits its story. Rest now, carried by the whisper of waves and the promise of tomorrow's journey to geological evidence and the younger Dryas theory. As the moonlight fades on our voyage through time's hidden corridors, we see a pattern woven across every lost realm we've explored. From Atlantis' submerged grandeur to Dilmun's pearly shores, each civilization spoke in stone and story, trade and temple. They remind us that every culture, no matter how distant, mysterious, or half forgotten, was driven by the same impulses that shape us today: curiosity, belief, and the desire to leave a mark on the world. Whether tracking Orichalcum's brilliance, charting Piri Reis's enigmatic lines, or deciphering Göbekli Tepe's silent messages, we've witnessed how myth and evidence entwine. In ancient Bahrain, traders chased immortality. On Easter Island, colossal moai gazed toward distant horizons. Beneath the Pacific, Lemuria's secrets beckoned intrepid sailors. Each chapter has been a doorway, inviting us to question, to imagine, and to look beyond the map. Now, as we bring this odyssey to shore, consider what these stories mean for us at this moment. They teach patience in discovery, archaeology isn't rushed, and humility before mysteries that may never fully yield their secrets. Most of all, they spark wonder, the conviction that somewhere, just out of sight, lies another fragment of our shared heritage waiting to be found. Thank you for joining Sleepy History Chronicles on this dreamlike expedition. If these nightly journeys awaken your own questions, or your heart to wander, subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss the next chapter. Share your favorite discovery in the comments below, and let us know which civilization you'd follow into the depths next. May your dreams tonight carry you over submerged cities and along star-lit trade routes. Until tomorrow, when we peer through ice and aurora into Hyperborea's frozen realm, rest well and keep wandering in wonder.